X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Joining us now, you have the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. His name is The Cleaner, Kenny Omega. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Kenny, man,
happy to be here.
So honored to have you on the show, man. So honored. And I just want to first congratulate you on a hell of a showing here at just the Long Beach show, the two-night, the G1 special. Two amazing matches. I loved your match with Elgin and then Ishii after that. Just amazing. And then and then the G1 climax. You're showing just once again, man. 2 years in a row, just incredible stuff, man. I can't say how much. You know, I told you in a direct message, you know, like your work and the things that I can tell you're thinking about out there are so far ahead of everyone's right now. It's going to be hard for anyone to catch up.
I mean, if you think so, well then thank you very much. I'm just trying to turn things into a different direction, and I don't necessarily think it's right or wrong. It's just the way that I like to wrestle, I guess. So if there are fans of that out there, and you know there appear to be a couple, I'm happy, and I'm going to continue to try my best.
Right on. I don't want to go like too far back and like do the whole chronological thing and talk about every like little piece of your career, because I'm sure you talked about a lot of that stuff ad nauseum. But I do want to talk about Winnipeg, because what a special place that is, man. Like, you know, it's kind of the Arctic tundra up there, but man, a lot of cool stuff and a lot of cool people have come out of there. And
yeah. Do you have any Winnipeg memories by chance? I'm
No.
sure you've been there at least a couple times.
Yeah, I do. But well, yeah, one of them is like watching Jericho perform like with his band there one time, and then like the Hell's Angels. Yeah, and then the Hell's Angels were there, and they ended up like some guy was giving me shit, and they ended up beating the shit out of this guy and throwing him out in a snowbank. I was like, I hope I don't owe you guys a favor. Anyways, no, but I was thinking about like I listened to your. When you did JR's podcast, the Ross Report.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were talking about how you used to see a show called IWA, and I'm pretty sure you're talking about Tony Condello's promotion, right?
That's the one, yes.
Yeah. Well, they had kind of a little of an arrangement with Eddie Sharkey's group, Pro Wrestling America, and I worked with them, you know, in the late '90s or the late '80s. Sorry. So
actually, for trivia, my very first tour to America, I actually met Eddie Sharkey himself. So it was, I didn't work for him or anything, but he was outside of some shop, and we had a little bit of a chat. So pretty cool that there's a connection there.
He was outside of some shop.
Yeah, just kind of hanging out. I don't know.
I hope that shop took inventory after you. That was really bad of me to say that. I'm sorry. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, man, like that IWA, I was Tony Condello, and you briefly touched on like those death tours he used to run. Did you ever do any of those?
Yeah, I did one, and I mean, Tony is one on record to say it was the worst one of all time, and you know, it was an experience that I really wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Can you explain it a little bit, what the death tour was?
Sure, yeah. Well, from what I understand, it's changed drastically now. Tony actually spends a little more money on the travel and and the safety of the performers. But during my tour, we had 3 vans, and they're kind of like utility vans, like, you know, like just like plain white vans.
16-passenger vans?
Yeah, and 2 of these vans would transport the ring and the sound equipment, and then 1 van was just designated for the wrestlers. But all vans would carry some staff or some wrestlers, but there was 1 van that only had human passengers, and then the other 2 had equipment as well. the thing with these tours is that even though I guess you could technically do it at any point in time, if you want to travel there by like land, you can only do it in winter because the entire perimeter of this area is surrounded by like a moat almost.
No.
So you can only drive there when the lakes are frozen over. So every winter, Tony runs these tours where you drive over the lake, and I guess about 5 or 7 hours in, there's your first stop, and then from there, you kind of just tour all throughout the innards of this area, and the stops will be anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours, and then one time we drove 33 hours straight, and there's no hotels, there's not even signs of life, and there's only one man actually that knew the lay of the land, and it was like an internal map that he had in his brain, and if he wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to get anywhere. So it was a wild ride, and when we'd get to the place, there was a hotel one time, but any other time you're put up in a clubhouse or you're sleeping on the gym floor.
And the arena you were working at, right?
At the school.
At the venue?
Yes, of course, yes, at the venue. So you'd get there the night before the show, or like if the morning of, and then sleep if you could, and then set up the ring or whatever and do the show.
And am I correct am I correct in saying that you had to bring your own food with you, or she didn't eat?
It was suggested that you'd bring your own food, but they had these. I guess they're kind of like there was like a grocery store per every, reserve. Yeah. And everything was overpriced unless you had like a residence card for the place. So if you wanted to get, I remember some of the obscene prices. There was like $17 for a 4-liter jug of milk. A box of 4 Pizza Pops was $21. So it was, everyone tried to bring a cooler and tried to stock up completely, but there was no way to have food for a month. But we tried our best.
I'm curious as to how the shows went. Like, did you go out there and try to kill it every night, like you were, at WrestleMania?
That was one good thing, was the crowds were very appreciative, and something like a shoulder tackle would get an enormous pop.
Yeah.
So the finish could literally be anything, and you could just go very babyface, very heel, yay boo, and people would love it. So you could keep things very simple. You wouldn't have to put it on the line. You wouldn't have to. You would never have to go off the top rope or do any dives or anything like that. Of course, I'm an idiot, so I did.
That's what I was wondering.
Looking back, looking back, I never had to.
Yeah, but in your mind, you kind of do at the time. Like, because I remember when I used to do those kind of shows with Jerry Lynn, never like to that extreme, right? But, it didn't matter who was in the crowd. We were going out there, and I was diving outside the ring. He was diving on me. We were killing each other.
That's true. And actually, that was kind of my first really lengthy tour. So for me, that was good money, and I just wanted to show that I wanted to be there, and I wanted to get booked again. Yeah. So just, putting my best foot forward, like, hey, I'm working hard every day. Here we are.
Did you guys ever? Did you ever go to the Pony Corral?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, like to wrestle or just to eat?
Well, I mean, that was where all the boys used to go when we were in Winnipeg. Right. Especially all the cheapskates that didn't want to buy their own food. They would show up there just to get the free meal, which is cool. Like but I just thought it was great because. It was such a tradition,
Yes, it was. Yeah, the Pony Corral in Winnipeg with wrestling was sort of synonymous with one another, but not so much anymore. But about the time when I was breaking in, it still had that reputation of being like the one-stop restaurant for pro wrestlers.
Yeah, and then
cool. Kind of like how there's Ribera in Japan, the steakhouse for all the wrestlers.
It would be the Ribera of Winnipeg, actually, now that you mention it.
It would be, yep.
And do you remember the hotel we used to stay at? It was like the Marine, it was some crazy hotel, and it had, anyways, who cares about all that? I can talk to you about that later. Sorry about that.
No, some people might find it interesting. I don't know. I don't get to talk about it too often.
Yeah, but, and did you know Bob Holliday?
I had only met him in passing.
Oh, okay.
Never really had like a full conversation with him or anything. But
he was like a crime reporter.
Greeted him, said hi.
Yeah, he was like a crime reporter in Winnipeg and ended up doing some stuff at WWE. But anyways, moving forward, where? How long before you ended up in developmental? Did I ever meet you there? I think you were gone by then, right? By the time
we never met there. I met a few fellows that stopped by to help us with our training, but that was in 2006.
Right.
So I was there from 2006 to 7, I guess a little bit into the 2007 year.
Yeah.
It wasn't again like.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't really remember you being there, Kenny. Just to be honest with you.
No, I didn't do much. I mean, it was. I was on their TV, like the Deep South Wrestling TV.
Yeah.
When I first arrived, I was used primarily, of course, as enhancement talent. I didn't really have any strong storylines, or I did a main event or two.
Yeah.
But was never really a heavily pushed dude there. But I mean, it was a lot like the Northern tours.
Yeah.
It wasn't pleasant while I was there doing it, but then I look back at it, and it was an experience that helped shape the person that I am today. And I wouldn't trade the experience for anything in the world, because it really helped me see more of what the business end of wrestling is like, what it's like there, the highs and the lows, and meeting some cool people. So
did you get did you get anything out of it as far as being able to that helped you cultivate the image and the persona and just your in-ring style that you have now?
I would say that the biggest thing that helped me moving forward were, Dave Taylor was there, and he had some classes, and before going to developmental, I had next to no fundamentals. And that was sort of, doing cool chain wrestling and using a lot of holds and stuff. That was sort of the kick on the indies. So when I had left developmental, had I not had those fundamentals and been able to do those types of things, I wouldn't have been able to have a career in the indies at all, which would have meant, promoters wouldn't trans me in, which would also mean I wouldn't get the bookings, and then, I wouldn't have ended up in Japan either. So that was a big thing. We did a lot of promo practice, and I did a lot of stuff locally in Winnipeg, where I was from, but they would put you in situations where, cut a babyface promo, cut a heel promo.
Right.
This time you're this kind of character, this time you're this kind of character. So that gave me that type of experience in front of a camera, and you have to hit a hard time. So that experience was invaluable as well.
Yeah.
But aside from that, those are the two big ones.
The thing is I know, I can, we don't have to get all into it, but I can totally understand how your experience there might not have been a pleasant one at times. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
And I know why.
And you know what? A part of the thing, too, was that my mind wasn't where it should have been. And I don't think I was mature enough to really handle, I guess, maybe the opportunity or the responsibility of being there. Even before going to WWE, my goal was still going to Japan. And when I was scouted to go to WWE, I was actually, the reason why I was at that camp where I was scouted was I was trying to get into a dojo in Japan.
Okay.
But instead, I got the offer to come to WWE, and I thought, well, this is also an opportunity. I'd be an idiot to say no.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give this a shot. But even then, at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, Japan, 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 Japan.
Yeah.
So, when things weren't the way I thought they would be, or, they weren't fun, or whatever, I just kept thinking, wow, I bet it wouldn't be like this in Japan.
Yeah.
So, even my own attitude was kind of getting soured a little bit because of my mindset at the time. Did you ask
to be released, or did they release you?
No, I asked for my release. I'd sort of, we'd been starting to get sort of guest trainers.
Yes.
And one of the cool guys that came down to help us out was Greg Gagne.
Oh, wow.
And he was a real big fan of the way, I guess, me and the way I would work and stuff. And we'd work together a lot, and he would try to offer ways for me to get to have more input on the shows and do more things of value. But in the end, a lot of those were shot down, and so I started to come up with my own storyline ideas.
Right.
And I started to pitch like 2 or 3 ideas. Some of them were ridiculous, but some of them I thought were genuinely pretty entertaining. And I didn't hear anything back, and so I was starting to think, wow, there's really no light at the end of this tunnel. I can't just be a guy that's, well, I just felt like I was meant for more than just being a guy that was on, doing jobs every second week.
That's right.
When I was training harder than everyone, when I was nailing all the physical drills, when I was practically training the class, I was always like the guy, show everyone how to do this, show everyone how to do that. All the squats, the push-ups, the crunches, I'm always the guy finishing first or being one of the only ones that does finish it. I felt that I was putting in the time, I was working hard, and there was no, fruits to the labor. And I loved a lot of the guys there. A lot of the guys were real kind to me, super fun to work with. But I just didn't see a future for myself there. Yeah. And I felt that, I'm a nobody, and I get it. I came from nowhere, have no name value, and so I don't blame anyone for not thinking that I'm anything special.
Sure, that's
fine. So what I wanted to do was get out and prove my own value, by whether it be going out in the Indies or going to Japan, which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to show that what you think of me now isn't what I actually am, and I can actually offer more to you guys.
Yeah.
But it's hard to take a chance on someone when you don't really know what they can or can't do. And I don't blame anyone for looking at me as, just a kind of a bump monkey, a guy that can take good bumps and do good jobs for guys.
That's
because I was just kind of a skinny dude.
Sure.
I wasn't really, I didn't, looking back at it, I wasn't trying to appeal to be in a better position. I was just kind of working hard with the jobs that were given to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I made the right choice in the end, but I don't harbor any ill will towards the system or the people that were there at all.
Were you able to show any character or charisma while you were there? When you were pitching these ideas?
I definitely was, but this is all behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, in our promo classes and stuff, we'd get graded, and all my grades are always, like, top of the class, but no one would ever know it because, Kenny Omega in Deep South Wrestling was just kind of like a, opening match or second match or, getting squashed by, big Russian dudes or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I was able to show kind of what I was capable of in the character department, but not on TV. I was never given really any interviews on TV, no live mic time. But we all cut promos, and they're all, I think, sent to the office, and we're all graded, and my grades were all fine. But, yeah, no one was able to see really that potential on the shows.
Didn't you cut this infamous promo at the end about being a plumber or something where you just didn't care anymore and you knew you were leaving and you just cut this ridiculous promo?
Oh, I mean, there was one class day where we would come up with another character, one that wasn't yourself. So I came up with this character that was named Plumber Lou Dooley, and which is actually kind of a rib on a guy that actually wrestled locally here in Winnipeg, whose name was Plumber Lou Dooley, and that was a rib on him as well. But Plumber Lou Dooley made a comeback, and I cut a promo as a plumber, and I think I had guests walk in on the promo. It was like an improv shtick, but it was pretty funny. I had everyone in stitches. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Well,
and then Bill at the time was like, come to my office, let's have a talk. And he said, well, what in the hell is Plumber Lou Dooley? He says, it was entertaining, and you put more devotion into Plumber Lou Dooley than you've done with anything here up to this point. Said, so I might as well repackage you as Plumber Lou Dooley and send you out. Like, how would that make you feel? I said, I don't know. I said, so at this point, it might be more fun, because I was already pretty, like, not sour, but just nothing was really fun there at that point in time. So I was like, go ahead, make me Plumber Lou Dooley. Like, it might be fun.
Well,
but I get where he was coming from, too. He was kind of saying, like, you should have put all of that thought and effort into something you actually wanted to do. But, yeah.
You have a lot more fun than I think most pro wrestlers do, and you always have as long as I've been following your career. But while we're talking about goofy stuff and having fun, one of the most fun things I've ever been able to see live is a match between John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt and John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt at PWG. I don't know if you have any memories.
Oh, you saw it live?
Yeah, I saw it live. I don't know if you have any memories of you and Bryan Danielson back at PWG just having the time of your lives.
Yeah, that was a real fun one. I am eternally thankful for him for giving me the go-ahead to go forward with this ridiculous idea of a match. And I mean that sort of in itself is a funny story, but
go ahead.
Okay, let me get this out of the way real quick. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, your name is my name too. Anyways, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
For whatever reason, we are hanging out, all of us, before the show, and I believe we are turning in our room cards or whatever, and we're waiting for the rides to show up so we can get transported to the venue. And Brian was talking about kind of, funny songs that really stick in your head from when you were a child. So we went through a bunch. And I had brought up the John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt one. And I'd brought up that it was featured in this show called Lamb Chop's Play Along. I don't know if you guys know.
Lewis and Lamb Chop?
Yeah, we know it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sherry
Yeah,
Lewis.
okay. Yeah, so he knew what it was, and he was like, oh, my God, yeah, I know that show. So we started singing it together, and then the lightning bolt struck. I'm like, come on, Brian, we got to do this. And he's like, what? I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, no, we have to. And I was like, listen. I said, hear me out here, Brian. He says, you're pretty much known as the guy that has these awesome matches with everyone. People literally call you the best in the world, and sure, we could go out there today and we could have a pretty darn good match, but then at the end of the day, what's it going to be? It's just going to be another good match that you had. Who cares? So let's do something memorable. And he's like, okay, I'm listening. I said, well, we already just talked about it. It's John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. He's like, well, what does that even mean? And, it's sort of, off the top of my head, I sort of laid out this groundwork for how it would be placed into this match. And then he was like, I think it's going to be real fun. Says, man, I got a Steven Regal in the back of my head telling me right now that this is the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. So I was like, okay, no problem, whatever. We'll just go out there and work.
The do-si-do spot into the backside is sweet, though, Kenny.
Yeah. See, that match is like already so far back in the past that, I mean, the do-si-do into the backside's got to make a comeback at some point.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
I'm begging you. I dare you.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're at the venue, and we haven't spoken about the match or what we're going to do. And then Brian comes up to me with a smile on his face, and he goes, let's do it. And then it ended up the way it ended up.
Do you run that by Super Draken before you do it?
No. Oh, hell no. No. Almost everything that I do, I know that if I put it by him first, he's going to hate it. And now it's at the point where I've done such strange things over the years where I think if I did tell him what I was going to do in advance, he'd go like, okay, I'm just going to trust you because, generally it all gets over anyway, so just do it.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a pretty good trust relationship now, so.
But
I still, as a rule of thumb, don't like telling him about stupid ideas because he's pretty into like big moves, big falses, and just going nuts.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of goofy or strange things, what was your experience like working for DDT, and what would you consider the most outrageous thing you did with them?
Wow. I mean, there's a couple things. One match in particular, I did in front of a green screen because the finished product was me wrestling a 50-foot giant. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. It was mostly like it was pretty much just a movie. It was all done in like we'd filmed everything beforehand and just aired it on the screen afterwards. So I guess that isn't a real match. In terms of matches, some of my favorites, we would have this thing called a rock and roll death match, and it's some of my proudest work there, but can never be shown because of copyright factors. You wrestle a match, and at random, you know, as random as it can be, of course, you know, we'd work it into the spots. Music would randomly, quote unquote, play, and you'd have to stop what you're doing and dance.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it sounds like a simple idea, but the way that we worked in the dancing into the spots and the types of dances dependent on the song, I thought was really creative, and I think a lot of people would like it and not shit all over it. Because a lot of people think that comedy is sort of a cop-out to not wrestling seriously, but I actually would argue that comedy is much more difficult than wrestling seriously.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to be creative in almost everything that you do if you want the comedy to make sense within the realms of pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. So we did like 3 of these rock and roll death matches, which became kind of serious. Not serious, but which became kind of like a feud thing. Like it was a rivalry of the rock and roll death match. And all 3 of them, I wish I could show or throw online or whatever, but we used all copyrighted music, so it probably can't happen. But I loved it. So there's that.
Well, and if WWE
Oh,
Network,
good.
if WWE Network ever got the footage, they would just like, you know,
Generic.
just put some generic ass music over every little, you know, piece. So, anyways, it would run.
Yeah, I know,
it
but
kind of sounds the same.
there were some like, yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, you could do that. You could put generic music that kind of sounded like the music that we used. But for example, like when we would wrestle and then the Macarena would turn on, it has to be the Macarena because
Right.
we're doing the Macarena. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, this
Yeah.
sounds so
I mean,
fun. I really want to
it's
watch this.
you know, moments like that which are important to have the real music.
For sure. And the thing is DDT, you know, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but you know, like I've heard the usual suspects shit all over some of your DDT stuff. And the thing is when you go to a DDT show, you kind of know that this is that type of a wrestling show. Like, and I don't
Yeah.
Like
I just-
Chikara.
Yes, exactly. And it's a different.
Yep.
It's just a different thing, man. And like you can do both. You
Yep.
can do both.
I mean, much like how there's a WWE universe.
Yeah.
You know, the word universe is kind of tossed around a lot, but DDT has a universe, and it has its own niche crowd. They know that when Yoshihiko, the blow-up doll, that's a wrestler, is involved in a match, they believe that he is living, that he is real, and in a way, because there's that invested emotion, you can feel the thoughts and the cheers from the crowd, and you as a wrestler start to believe as well. And you almost forget that you are wrestling an inanimate object, and it's just a doll, and you start working and selling for this thing like it was real. And I took a lot of pride in the stuff that I did with the doll because I didn't want it to look like I was a kid playing with a toy.
Yeah.
Again, going back to what I had said, you know, it's easy to wrestle seriously. It really is. But to work a good comedy match, to work with a doll but make people believe, to make people bite on the falses, to make people laugh or say, you know, this is entertaining, to want them to show their friends, that's tough to do.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, like, well, aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? No, I'm not. It's actually some of my most proudest work.
And I don't blame you. Mark in the booth here. One of the things that got me to start following you as a wrestler was your work with Yoshihiko, because you were doing the Zangief's spinning lariat. You did Zangief's ultimate as well. So when did the decision come to add the video game stuff into your repertoire? And And I have another question after that.
Well, I actually started doing the Hadouken locally here in Winnipeg, and at no point was it ever like, okay, I was throwing an invisible fireball. It was always like a palm strike, which is an actual legit maneuver, but I guess doing it was sort of like a rebirth of Kenny Omega, because I started doing it after I came back from developmental, and I was sort of wondering, where do I go from here? Do I even continue with wrestling? What is it that I want to do with it if I continue? And then I made the decision that I'm going to be myself. Instead of stressing about all these characters that I thought of and drew up and suggested to, WWE office and Bill DeMott, which weren't really me. They were just ideas that I thought might make the company money. I'm just going to be myself, try to have fun with it, and if people don't like me, well, then they don't like me, and then I'll just disappear, and then it's over, you know what I mean? But if they do like me, then I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing again. I'm going to fall in love with wrestling again, or keep loving wrestling, and, that in itself will hopefully shine through, and people will believe in the character that is Kenny Omega, because it's just me. So I thought about, okay, what is me? What the hell am I? Who the hell am I? So I was like, I really don't know. I like wrestling and I like video games. So I came up with doing the Hadouken. And that almost more than anything caught on locally where I'm from, on American Indies, and in Japan as well. It just sort of became like, oh, Kenny Omega, the Hadouken guy. Yeah, I know you. So when it came to doing other Street Fighter moves, I actually played Street Fighter like really seriously at a pretty high level, and I was using Zangief at the time. So that was just sort of like a fan mark moment for me, was to do the character that I was using is Ultra in an actual match, and I could only ever do it to a doll, right? So
because it's a German suplex
that's the
and
best
then
way
a
to-
catching
yeah, exactly.
backbreaker and a spinning pile driver, all in one.
Right.
In one.
Yeah, the German into the backbreaker is doable. Like, I could do that to a human, but tossing the guy up in the air and catching him in a spinning pile driver was kind of where I drew the line. Was
Who knew?
Try it.
Oh,
I don't know. You got Bola coming up. Maybe we'll see it there.
Is there anybody lining up?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Kenny.
What was your last
no
question?
problem.
What was your last question, Marcus?
Well, he had brought up how I'm a big fan of the Street
Yeah.
Fighter competitive scene, and I know this isn't what this show is about. We'll get back to wrestling in a second, but how do you split the time to spend enough time training for like the Capcom Cup or things of that nature with your professional
Right.
wrestling?
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, of course, time to play is really limited, so you have to maximize any chance you get to be on a stick. But luckily with Street Fighter V, it's a more simple game, and it's a game kind of based around, numbers, frame data. So as long as you have the information and you kind of get the idea behind how the game is played, you can just, as long as your execution is half decent, you can have your knowledge, watch a lot of streams, watch a lot of guys displaying their tech, and watch high-level matchups, and it will translate quite well once you start actually trying to implement it into a real game. So if I even play once a week, I can stay pretty sharp with Street Fighter V, just because it's kind of a more simple game than any other Street Fighter was. But yeah, I wish I could play more, and if I could, I'd be much better. But at this point, I'm just happy that I can meet up with a lot of the better players and actually play some pretty fun casual sets with them and not be completely embarrassed.
Well, speaking of scheduling, how grueling was the G1 for you, and especially wrestling, in your case, 10 main event caliber matches? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, and I was anxious for this year's tournament because I wasn't sure what my story going into the tournament would be, what the outcome would be. We're pretty much kept in the dark until the very end. So what I wanted to do was kind of follow the same game plan that I did last year, which is just tell very different stories between each and every match. And just, even if I'm not going for like match of the night, I just want my match to be visually very different than the other matches on the card. Because some guys, you know, whether it's due to their own, you know, physical limitations or because it's their style or because of how it's the way they want to work, they're going to have the same kind of match every night.
Yep.
And, you know, for better or for worse, that's just what you're going to get. And at the very least, as long as I know that that's what their plan is going into it, I can arrange sort of my style to look visually different than that. And, yeah, I was really happy with the way things went. I went out of my comfort zone more than a few times. And then when push came to shove, you know, I was told that, yes, I will be going to the finals again. And, you know, I had the big one with Okada, and then the day after I had the one with Naito, which was really cool because we had some really good chemistry last year, and I was glad we could mix it up again, and in a situation where the stakes were even higher. So, yeah, we were tired and beat up and all that, but, you know, I had kind of saved enough in the tank to push myself to the place I had to go to for those last two.
Well,
And
I think you did it a little bit more than kind of, man, because you know, you knocked it out of the park 2 nights in a row. So, hey,
yeah,
you know, you were talking about comfort zones, and you know, one of your matches during that tour brought a lot of the wrestlers I know out of their, and people in the business out of their comfort zone when you guys had your feet tied together. And
right.
Yeah, and that brings me to like what you were saying earlier about doing comedy well, and you know, just how you phrase that, and you know, and it reminds me of like the Twitter exchange, like Lance Storm and Davey Boy Smith Jr. More Harry Davey Boy Smith Jr. kind of shit on the.
No, it was all Harry.
Yeah.
I love Lance. I have a ton of respect for Lance, and we get along actually real well together. Yeah, I mean, that has since been, you know, dealt with, and it's water under the bridge now.
Yeah.
But at the time, you know, Harry had made some condescending comments on Twitter, and it was all just, he was just a little upset or whatever that he wasn't booked as part of the G1, and that's fine. But I guess when you make backhanded comments towards people that are on the same roster as you,
yeah,
you know, eventually someone's going to have to say something. And it was about the third or fourth time it had happened. So, I mean, I was just in a bad place. I was annoyed with it because here I am on tour wrestling almost every day and busting my ass, and we have someone who's supposed to be part of our team kind of burying me on a public forum,
right,
on social media. I just felt I had to defend myself, and maybe I shouldn't have, and I should have dealt with it in private. But, you know, what's done is done, and we're cool with each other. Everything's all fine. And it's just,
cool.
It was a case of both of our emotions getting the best of us.
Yeah, and I mean, what you said, pull that back up, Marcus. I was just about ready to read it, and then you took it off the screen. Okay, never mind. Just forget it. Where were we?
So speaking on a lighter note, your match with Toru Yano, what was it like wrestling with the tape around your ankles? Because there was a lot of like balancing. How was that?
Yeah, surprisingly more difficult than I thought it would be. I mean, I just figured it would be easy to do the stuff that we had called, and I thought like, okay, if you punch me and I pretend to lose my balance, you know, like people will laugh or whatever. But if you try to sell anything, you're naturally just you're going to lose your balance.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it actually didn't take a spill on the ring.
Here was my issue with that. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, I was just gonna say, like bouncing to the ropes. I thought I would be able to bounce to the ropes super fast. I thought I'd like bound like a little bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
And it was difficult because the ring's like giving as you're bouncing. Oh, it was tough. And then I thought like, okay, you know, I'll do like this this shoulder tackle. I'm going to look like Road Warrior Hawk, like hitting this guy, you know. And then I watched it back, and it just looked like the weakest, shittiest shoulder tackle. But I swear to God, I threw that thing as best as I could, given the situation.
Here was I was laughing about this, and I was gonna make this just like a facetious, like, snide comment, like just kidding around. My issue with it was when you hopped into the ropes, he just stood there in the middle of the ring instead of hopping towards you, so you didn't have to go all the way across the ring to tackle him. That was my only issue with it.
That a lot, actually.
That was what exposed the business to me, not the rest of
it. Kenny, while we're talking about the grueling schedule, how I know that New Japan and Japanese wrestling in general, you work a very demanding style, especially when you're on television. And I just wanted to know how much is it on everyone's minds, given what happened to Shibata, about the very hard-hitting, unprotected headbutt sort of style that a lot of people do over there?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I am definitely, I mean, more than ever, kind of, and it's sort of a strange statement to make, but I'm trying to make it clear through the way that I work that I'm very much avoiding that style. And the thing is, like, by saying that, I'm doing it, but I'm disguising it, so how would anyone know? But it's stuff like with forearms, I'm not even making contact anymore. You know, before it's kind of like, okay, you make it a little snug and you can kind of get a little bit of contact. But, you know, through the G1, you're wrestling matches almost every day. You don't need to be getting rocked by forearms or palm strikes or whatever every day of the tour. So it's stuff like that. Like, I was relying more on chops than ever. You know, more or less faker stuff. Some of the guys, you know, they don't want to change what they have been doing all these years. They don't want to reinvent their own wheel, and that's their own choice. But if I work with guys like that nowadays, in the matchmaking process, I'll just kind of say, like, hey, we need to be careful about the message that we're putting out there, considering the accidents that have happened, which of course were accidents, but we need to kind of take down the risk percentage as much as we can and show that, you know, we are actually the kings of strong style. And by doing that, it's not just by being the toughest, like, yeah, we can absorb a ton of damage to our brains, but, you know, we can do this, and we can do this safely, and it looks like we're killing each other. I think that's the most important part.
Especially those knees, man. Those knees don't look, they look like you're making contact still, bro.
Oh, the knees. Yeah. I only actually make contact with one of them, and it's the one where the guy is near the ropes, and it's not a knee that comes up into the person. It's actually just my shin pushing.
Yeah.
So it's not like a, how do I say? It's more of like a push against the, you know, the body or whatever, the side of the head.
Gotcha.
Which is why I always tell the guy that I'm working with, use your arm as a guide, and put your arm against the, like, hold the middle rope.
Yeah.
So that you have that space there to lean out of the knee, so it looks like I'm killing you, but I'm literally just kind of pushing you. Yeah, and that's it. But, like, in terms of, like, the other ones, like all the standing ones, those are coming up to the left of the head and just kind of make contact with the chest.
Well, in the G1 final in your match against Naito, there was a spot where the pile driver that was supposed to go through the table, but I think Naito slipped a little bit and it didn't happen on the table. What was your thought when that happened?
I mean, he pile drove me off the table, and when it happened, I heard the gasps from the crowd, and I was right beside the Japanese commentary table. And I heard the commentary table saying, oh, I think he scraped his head in the corner of our table. So I thought, oh, that's cool. I can roll with that. So I sold it like I was possibly sliced open on the top of my head from the table.
Japanese tables are the hardest tables of all time.
Exactly, yeah. So it was very believable that something went wrong.
Oh, my God.
And, you know, he's really good. None of his moves are dangerous whatsoever. I didn't I was completely fine with it. I just sold it like I was cut open and needed stitches.
Well, in this match, there was a very scary moment where he looks like he's going for a superplex on you, and you lean forward but kind of lose your balance, and you almost DDT him on the ring post. What was the reaction during that match of that whole situation going on?
Yeah, so, again, that was a situation where it was supposed to happen, not supposed to happen at that timing. I was getting ready to do it, and I had slipped. And I thought Naito's just destroyed himself on the post. I felt terrible, for one.
You look concerned.
And then I thought, okay. Yeah, and I thought, like, when I peel his hair back, I'm expecting to see a gusher. So I'm like, I'm getting ready to throw some Hulk Hogan punches at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, wait, there's nothing. And then I asked him after. I was like, how bad did you hit the post? He's like, I didn't hit it at all. I was like, it looked like you killed it. And he said, nope, didn't hit it at all. I was like, come on, don't bullshit me. Don't lie to me. Like, just tell me. I'm so sorry. He's like, no. He says, I know that it looked like I hit it, but I didn't hit it. I was like, wow, well, thank goodness. And that was that.
I liked your Naito match as much as I did the Okada match the night before, which was amazing. But
thank you very much.
There's just something about Naito's his whole persona, everything, like the whole package, you know. And I really thought you guys had incredible chemistry as well.
Yeah, like I said before, like our groups never get to mesh because we're both supposed to be considered, heel units. Right. So storyline-wise, the Bullet Club never faces LIJ. So for me to face any of those guys, it can only happen really in tournament-style format. So I didn't wrestle Naito at the U.S. stuff, and I don't think we clashed at all in any of the tag league stuff either. So aside from the one G1 match that we had last year, I get to work the guy once a year. And, the fact that we have this instantaneous chemistry together, which is, kind of rare just to meet a dude that you don't even really know. He's not your friend, and you work so well together with him. It's really nice and really cool. I always look forward to doing anything with them, and the fact that so much was on the line in the match made it even better. If you get to work once with a guy, once a year, to have something on the line and the stakes be high, makes it real fun to put something together. That's real special.
Yeah.
So the 10 guys you wrestled, whose style was the hardest to adapt to?
That's a very good question.
Denise over here bringing the fire.
I had to know.
All these trick questions, loaded questions.
I was most worried actually before the Tamatonga match because I really wanted there to be a reason for us to fight, and I was worried going into it that there wouldn't be a reason. And I know that the bookers and everyone expects us to take each other's heads off, but why would we? We're part of the same group. We're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be brothers. So coming up with that story or having a reason to have me or him want to kill the other guy, that sort of left me a little stressed because, everything's always last minute. As soon as one match is done, you're already in preparation for the next match. So I knew that at most I was going to have one day to prepare and come up with a story for this thing. And for the most part, it's like when guys were wrestling their fellow, stablemates or whatever, they would just go at each other right off the gong and make it look like they wanted to kill each other. And it makes no sense to me. So I wanted to make sure that there was at least something more than just, I want to beat you in a match because, well, it's the G1 and why not? So that had me a little stressed, but we came up with a nice little story, and in the end it was fine. But that one had me kind of worried for a little bit.
Kenny, I know that you and the Bucks have a very specific relationship with Dave Meltzer, and you guys specifically have come up sort of being part of the generation that respects and loves Dave Meltzer. So what was it like for you to discover that you had been part of the very first 6-star match ever of all time?
I mean, I remember that we had a show the day after Tokyo Dome, and I was actually at the venue and getting ready for my match, and it was just like a fun little 10-man tag, and Scott Norton was in it, which was like real cool, super fun to work with him.
Awesome.
So I was just happy. I was happy that the Tokyo Dome main was over, went off without a hitch. You know, it seemed that the reviews, I mean, you know, from the live crowd and the live audience, and from, you know, my followers on Twitter and stuff, were saying some real nice comments and giving me positive feedback. So I was kind of on an emotional high, and then to segue from that into being able to work with Scott Norton was just real cool.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I was just having a gay old time, and then someone had said like, "Hey, Meltz just gave you the first ever 6-star match." And I'm like, haha, yeah, right, whatever. Because I mean, like, you know, it's a 5-star scale, right? Like, you'd think it'd have to be something really special. And he's like, no, like, look, it's right here. So I was actually getting ready to go out, and this dude or whatever passes me a cell phone, and it had the write-up with the 6 stars on it. And I was like, if this isn't a typo, that's pretty damn cool. And then, you know, did the match, had some fun, and came back, and everyone, you know, was congratulating me on Twitter for the 6-star match. And I was like, wow, this is like a real thing.
I remember
yeah, and then I
Meltzer.
was like, okay, cool. It's like, I hope I never have to work with this guy ever again, because expectations are way too high now.
Well, then you followed it again.
Yeah.
And then yeah, like, I think it was the next month or the next tour that I did for New Japan. They're like, yeah, we need like a guaranteed sellout, so we got to go back to that match already. And I was like, oh no.
Oh.
Like, what? I was like, this is like, it was at a point where it's like, is a 5-star match considered like a, you know, a letdown at this point?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Austin called me after that match and went, "Did you see that goddamn match with Kenny Omega and Okada? Holy!" I mean, he was going nuts, man. And we had a long conversation about that and about your, you know, being just. I mean, you know, you've already heard all this shit, people blowing smoke up your ass.
Yeah,
Come on.
Austin was. Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat, and it was. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. It's just, I don't know, surreal to hear these people that I've never met before, but people that I've have such a high respect for, and they're reaching out to me to say such kind words. It's, yeah.
Different. This past weekend
Sure.
was NXT TakeOver, and Adam Cole debuted. What were your thoughts on this situation and your reaction?
Are we speaking in terms of being the elite storylines, or the feelings
let's
of?
do it as the elite, and then as Kenny, friend of Adam, Kenny.
Well, well, I guess first of all, I mean, this is a man that was supposed to be dead, so there must be some sort of strange black magic going on behind the scenes, something beyond my knowledge. But we're gonna get to the bottom of this, and you can be rest assured that there will be answers, and we're going to get to the bottom of as to why Adam Cole is still alive and breathing. Because, as far to our knowledge, I mean, he was poisoned and he was dead, and that was proven on the show. So, how was it that he was resurrected?
Ask Aleister Black. Might have something.
It will be addressed in future episodes
of being the elite.
Don't you worry. Yes, yeah. We can't let sleeping dogs lie, as the saying goes. So, yeah, the Adam Cole story does continue, and there will be repercussions in the future.
So just circling.
But yes,
Just circling
and
back.
as the friend of Adam Cole, I'm not sure as to what I can say or cannot say, but I know there was difficulty with that situation, and I'm just happy as a friend of his that he is finally able to freely make his television debut, and I'm guessing that from here on in he's going to be a permanent fixture. And yeah, I know that more than a few fellows have had some difficulty making their debuts there, and I'm just really happy that that's all cleared up. And I'm hoping that from here on in it's smooth sailing, and that they can show why they are some of the best talents in the world.
Difficulty.
And by the looks of it, they're... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say difficulty as far as what, as like keeping their name and their character and their persona, or contracts with another company. What do you mean by that?
Oh no. Yeah. I mean, just from what I understand, their debuts were supposed to have been made earlier in the year, but complications had prevented that, and you know, as a friend of theirs and a supporter, I just had worried that maybe things could go really bad and that they wouldn't make their debut at all. But it appears that everything's smoothed over, and here they are on TV, so it's good. All that stuff has gone away, and they are, I would assume, are about to do some real big and cool things for NXT.
Hey, Kenny, you know, this is going backwards a little bit, but I want to talk about the G1 special here in the States and your matches, man, because
sure.
Okay, the match with Elgin was great match first night, and then I'm going to skip to the second match, your match with Ishii, because I heard you talk about wanting to work with Ishii, I think on the Jim Ross podcast, and maybe you hadn't worked with him yet. And you were absolutely right about you know, your thoughts on working with him coming up, and watching that match, man, noticing all the little details paid attention to, and not just that match, but all your matches. But you know, the psychology, it's, you know, some people go, oh, I don't like this psychology, or you know, they don't have psychology. No, it's a different psychology. It's a different one, and it's great. And like the one thing like that really stood out to me, and I don't know why, is when you were trying to German him off the apron onto the table, and like you got his grip loose, and then he gripped it with his teeth. Was that your idea?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, little things like that. Yeah. Yeah. He was a stone pit bull, right? And I can't take full credit for it because I'd actually seen, I don't remember how far back it was, but I had seen Shibata do it to escape a submission hold where he was completely tied up, and he ended up breaking the ropes by, you know, kind of army crawling to the ropes, like on his chest or whatever, and biting it. So I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool if that was the reason why I couldn't dragon suplex this guy off the apron, which is a move that no one would normally believe is going to happen anyway.
Right.
And if I actually did do it, people would say I was, you know, one of the most dangerous workers in all of the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to toss that monkey wrench in to show that, wait a minute, what's even going to stop him from going now? And then, yeah, the bite. And then when we actually did go, I wanted to prove that I could do it safely, just as.
And you know, just like watching that match and all your matches, the things that you're doing out there are like I was saying earlier, so far ahead of everyone else. Like, they're not the routine things that wrestling fans are used to seeing in every match. A tackle, drop down, leapfrog, blah blah. You know, you're coming at things from different angles and different ways of going in and out of things, and it keeps people on their feet, and it surprises them, and that's what makes great wrestling to me.
I mean, I completely agree. I love professional wrestling, and I love doing what I do, but I'm not necessarily a huge fan and mark of what wrestling is what people tell you wrestling is supposed to be. You know, that wrestling always has to be, you know, lock up, chain wrestling, take a headlock, and then you go into the first spot. Why does it have to be that?
Exactly.
You know, it's supposed to be a fight, right? Or it's supposed to be, you know, a contest between two gentlemen or a tag match or whatever. You know, what in the world of professional wrestling says you have to do it that way? Nothing. And that's why when I tell these different types of stories, people, I guess, that are wrestling purists may call that bad psychology, or they just might not like it. But I'm just trying to tell human stories and stories that people can relate to all around the world, not just wrestling fans, because I'm actually not trying to appeal to wrestling fans. I'm trying to reach people that have been disenchanted with wrestling, or people that want to give pro wrestling a try, but maybe don't know much about it and just want to see something cool, or people that just like watching TV dramas. People like watching Game of Thrones or whatever, and they're like, oh, let's watch wrestling, what's cool. Or people that like MMA, I want to give them a little bit of everything, but just make it compelling. And sometimes, that's tackle, drop down, leapfrog, hip toss, but if it's always that, then that gets boring and that gets redundant, and then in the end, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, and everyone else is doing it anyways, and you want to be doing something
right,
different.
Exactly.
You want to stand out, that's how you do it, doing shit like you do it. And you know what? You made a believer out of Roseanne Barr, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
That was pretty damn cool.
Right?
I couldn't believe that. Like, I thought that was, I mean, I know her son took the video, but I mean, that was definitely Roseanne Barr in the movie. Wow,
damn right it
crazy.
Was. Hell yeah. So, I mean, it just goes to show you exactly what you're talking about. You're reaching out to, you're trying to broaden the tent, I mean, we already have the rest of the hardcore bands. You already got their money. I don't mean to put it that way, but they're in it.
No,
the hook's already sunk in on them. So.
Yeah, and that's also kind of jives with how I wanted to wrestle in the G1 as well. Like, there's a certain type of style you're going to get plenty of in the G1, and I didn't want to contribute more to that certain kind of style, because then everything just blends in with each other, and you're watching 5 singles matches a day that all look the same.
Yes.
And I just wanted to be at least the one match that's going to look a little different, for better or for worse. Even if it was, maybe you were more excited with 2 other guys that were just killing each other and doing everything under the sun. At the very least, maybe there's something fun or funny or entertaining that you took away from my match.
Yeah.
If that was the case, then I was a happy camper.
The thing is,
and that's why I called the Ishii, or that's why I called the Yano match the way I did too. It's like, if the guy's character is comedy, I mean, there's no reason to half-ass it. You might as well just take it to another dimension already, and really reach out to the people that aren't familiar with what's going on. That, to me, was kind of like an opportunity to reach out for new fans, to get more product, just get the product name out there. I mean, I've heard the negative criticisms. It doesn't belong in the G1 or whatever. I embarrassed myself and my opponent and the industry, et cetera, et cetera.
How can anyone tell you embarrassed yourself? Did you feel embarrassed?
No, not
then
at all.
Then what the F are they talking about?
No, but I mean, this is what people, this is, I'm just talking about the negative backlash that I've received. But for me, it was just product awareness. Like, people think now that, because I'm in tight with Dave Meltzer or whatever, that I'm always wrestling for his rating scale. And I got a 1-star match, but it's one of the matches I'm most proud of in all my G1.
Yeah.
And that match, maybe up to that point, probably had more views and had more notoriety than all of the other matches on the G1 up to that point.
Yeah.
Again, for better or for worse. Like, no, I don't want the G1 to be known as that. Of course not. But if it's kind of the gateway drug to showing all the awesome guys that we have in New Japan that are, busting their butts, and then they remember me as that guy in that match, and they're seeing me bust my butt against a guy like Okada or Naito, then I think it's mission accomplished.
Nice. I want to talk to, but we talked a lot about what you're doing in the ring, and like all the groundbreaking stuff, but like, okay, the way you're conducting business out of the ring too, with the elite and all that, and making your own group within a group, like Scott and Kevin and I did with the Wolfpac when we were in NWO. It reminds me of that a bit. Although you guys seem to have taken it to another level in your own ways and made it your own, which is cool. But I get the impression that you're kind of calling your own shots when it comes to the direction of the elite. Whether are you? Is that the case?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the case. In terms of Bullet Club, of course, that's an intellectual property owned by New Japan, and kind of what they say is the law. That's what goes. And you know, the Elite at first was kind of just a joke. You know, we had sort of the Young Bucks and I, and actually AJ even at the time, because he was with New Japan at the time. We would always joke around, like, for example, we'd be calling a match, and you know, a guy would give a deer headlights look, and we'd just joke around like, "Oh, you're not Elite, so that's why you don't understand." And then when AJ had announced that he was leaving and he was doing his last match, and we did the double cross and AJ in the ring, we thought, like, maybe let's run with this Elite thing now, because, you know, on the road, the Bucks and I, we're always together, we're always hanging out. You know, when I do take outside bookings with the Indies, I'm always going to try to get on the same shows as the Bucks. And, you know, the other Bullet Club guys, you know, they just sort of do the Bullet Club stuff in Japan. So we had sort of felt that we're the ambassadors for Bullet Club outside of Japan anyway.
Yeah.
And then from there, you know, Bucks had signed a contract with Ring of Honor. I was signed full-time with New Japan. And we had realized that because we're sort of apart from each other, more often than not, we'd wanted to come up with a way to give back to fans that weren't seeing us team as the Elite as often as we'd like. So Nick actually came up with this idea to do Being the Elite, which was supposed to be kind of like an inside look as to our lives on the road or before and after matches. And it was just straight up like, you know, this is our travel schedule, we're headed to the building, this is the match, this is after the match, and then it was a done deal. And in between all that, we would make stupid comedy skits that we would upload anyway. And then in the end, those sort of blended together into the actual Being the Elite episodes, and now we have an actual storylines within the real life before and after match happenings. And that became Being the Elite. And now we have kind of like, we have the Elite, which is myself, Nick, and Matt, and then we have kind of Being the Elite, the cast, which is like myself, Nick, Matt, Marty, Cody, you know, the kind of like the guys that are appearing more often than not on the episodes.
Sure.
And yeah, like that sort of, people wanted merchandise at that point, so we made Elite merchandise. Then once that took off.
Any heat with the Office or the other boys over kind of like some people might consider going into business for yourselves with that?
No, I mean they were happy. I mean ROH was happy, and New Japan had asked us if we were interested in selling the name,
of course,
or just giving them the name, you know, whichever one's better. And we had just said no, we kind of want it to be our own thing if it's cool with you guys. So they said that's fine. And you know, when we do six mans and stuff, we have like our own like Elite like screen or whatever. Like we have our own like I don't know what you'd call that, a Titantron, if you will.
Sure.
So like, you know, they do call us the Elite on all the pamphlets and all that. So like they do recognize that we are doing our own thing, kind of.
And if God forbid, like the Bullet Club itself overall gets too watered down, you've insulated yourselves from that.
Definitely, yeah. And that's sort of another thing too. Like there was a time when we were just adding everyone under the sun. Like, okay, if there's a foreigner that comes to New Japan, oh, Bullet Club, you're Bullet Club for sure. And it was never really supposed to be that. Like it was always supposed to kind of be, you know, dudes that were actual real friends in real life.
Yeah.
And we didn't want it to be this huge, like, mass of humanity. You know, anyone that was foreign or from America or from a different country just automatically gets tossed in the Bullet Club. We never wanted it to be that. And even though, you know, they say we can kind of control that situation, in the end, we never really could.
Right.
So the Elite was kind of created as a situation where we dictate what happens. You know, there's never going to be, you know, a million members of the Elite. The Elite's just going to be like us, and that's it. When we make these Being the Elite episodes, there's not going to be any like hanky-panky weird editing. You know, we edit it ourselves. The way that we show ourselves and portray ourselves is up to us. The storylines that we do, you know, we're not going to disrespect the New Japan storylines, but we are going to have our own storylines on top of that. And we know it's kind of like walking a thin line, but we make sure not to upset anyone on either side.
Sure. And I'm a big fan of the addition of Marty Skrull into the Bullet Club. Huge fan.
Oh
of
yeah,
his.
we love Marty. Yeah.
Yes.
Like that was a situation actually where we actually really asked and we begged for Marty to be part of Bullet Club.
He's one of those guys that brings something to the T-shirt instead of the shirt bringing some, just getting the guy over. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what are we gonna do with the guy?
And
I don't know. Let's just put a Bullet Club shirt on him. It's not that. He brought something to the group.
Definitely, yeah. And he's got like just the way that he conducts himself, his work, his look. All really cool. He's, a lot like Adam Cole in a way, where he can work really well, can cut a real good promo. He's got great facials. But I mean, and this isn't at all a knock on Adam Cole, but as a presence, when I see Marty make his entrance as the Plague Doctor with the umbrella, yes. I'm captivated more by that.
Yeah, man.
So it's really cool to have him as part of the Bullet Club, and what a swell guy, just a real cool guy.
On top of it all, yes, on top of it all, tremendous human being on top of everything else.
Yep.
Well, you pretty much took over AJ's spot as the leader, and then Marty took over Adam's spot. So if you were ever going to be taken out of the Bullet Club, who would you want to replace you?
I mean, see, this is already kind of it's sort of become an issue where I'm not even sure if I'm fit to be leader anymore, like right now. And that is just because it's to a degree in Japan where if you're shown working hard, you're just going to start to get over, and people are going to love it, and people are going to love you because you're giving of your heart, you're giving of your soul, and there's almost no way for you to be a full heel anymore. And that's sort of the situation I've fallen in, being in every big show main event since Wrestle Kingdom this year. And there's really nothing I could do aside from purposely not try, you know what I mean? So I honestly feel that even though in America the Bullet Club presence is really, it's almost like a babyface entity. People love repping the Bullet Club. They love throwing up the two sweets. But in Japan,
a lot of bootleg merch out there. Now you know you made it.
Yeah, I know, yeah. But in Japan, I know for a fact that they really would prefer us to be a straight heel unit. And, we do try to work that way in our matches, but no matter what we do, no matter all the dastardly things we do leading up to the big matches, if you perform and you have a great big match, people are going to love you anyway. So
let the people love who they want to love.
I need the slate wiped clean at this point, because I've done too much. And I was thinking that maybe Cody would be a great leader, given the fact that not only is he just a great heel and understands how to be a heel, but even in America, on the American shows, I don't know if you saw Cody's match against Okada, but he was booed as a heel.
Yes.
And it was a rare situation where, as over as the Bullet Club guys were in America, Cody was like the one guy that was treated as a pure heel. And I think as a leader, that would be great to have.
Yeah. Hey, before we're getting close to the end here, Kenny, and I want to let everybody in the room here hit you with, I know you guys probably have a few more questions you want to answer, and I don't want to keep you guys from doing it. So do you mind if I let them hammer you with a few more before we let you go?
Go ahead. Yeah, go rapid fire.
So circling back to Okada and your incredible in-ring feud with him, in New Japan history, it's Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi is one of the most respected and known in-ring feud. But now people are saying that yours with Okada is taking over that. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, it's tough because, I think maybe from an in-ring in the ring, just as a trilogy, perhaps what we have shown through our actions in the ring is a great story. However, it's hard to say that it is better than the story that was Okada versus Tanahashi, because I think they had something like 9 or 10 matches between each other. I mean, their kind of rivalry took place over the better part of, I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it was like 3 years or so, maybe more, maybe even 4. And Okada and myself had 3 matches in less than a year. So I think it's apples and oranges. If people prefer our trilogy to, that the history between the passing of the torch of Tanahashi to Okada, I'm thankful for that. I mean, I've tried my best just to have the best performances I could. But I definitely wouldn't feel slighted if people said that, Tanahashi as like the 10-year ace of the company passing the torch to Okada was the better story, because I mean it was definitely an emotional story arc for the company, and they don't really change aces of the company too often. They ride someone
damn right into the ground.
Yeah, they really do. So to pretty much have Tanahashi pass the torch to Okada when Tanahashi was kind of the guy that was there through the thick and thin of things and kind of brought New Japan out of the rubble and brought it back to prominence again. That's a huge thing.
Props to Tanahashi for doing business like that too. A lot of guys back in the old days in New Japan wouldn't have, like a Choshu, or that's why Choshu ended up with the Maeda's foot and chicken shit thing Maeda did, but it was over resentment of guys being held back.
Right. Yeah. No, that's definitely it's a very honorable thing to do, and he was willing to pass the torch when Okada wasn't even necessarily ready to handle the responsibility.
Yeah. And Tanahashi, Tanahashi has plenty of more miles left on him too, so it's kind of amazing to me.
Kenny, I know that. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was done. It's okay.
Okay. I know that you said that you and LIJ, or Bullet Club and LIJ, don't get to mix it up too much. You get to wrestle Naito once a year. Can we have the next Bullet Club versus LIJ match be Kenny Omega versus Daryl?
Stop.
Well,
this is Kenny Omega, so that's a serious question.
And Daryl is extremely over as a babyface.
He is.
Yes, it honestly would be the exact same situation as facing the girl or Yoshihiko, where the crowd would believe and cheer for Daryl.
Yep.
There's nothing Daryl could ever do that would make him a heel in that match. And I don't think I would ever do a singles, but if it was, for example, myself and the Young Bucks versus, Hiromu, Naito, and Daryl, I think it could work. I honestly think it could work.
Nice.
And I actually, even just saying that right now, like all these cool ideas are popping into my head as to how we can make it work and actually make it believable as well.
Well, Daryl has more emotional equity than 90% of the baby faces that get shoved down people's throats in this industry.
Well, yeah, the unfortunate truth, yes.
Mm-hmm. Hey, before we let you go, I want to talk about New Japan's plans coming up in the future here. And I just wanted to throw this out there that I think that New Japan on the next tour should run the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and you should headline it. And sell that mother effer out.
Yeah, man. I mean, I as long as we bring in our dudes, and as long as we have a strong card like we had on the first New Japan US outing, I think it can do much better than what we did. And I mean, we really undershot. The office had admittedly said we were worried, we were nervous, We didn't know how well it would do. We couldn't believe it would do well. And I had told everyone from the beginning, we will do well. People know who we are. They want to see who we are. They want to check it out. There's a lot of first-time viewers that are just curious that will check it out.
Yeah.
So hopefully they won't make the same mistake twice. And
hey, it's better to do it that way than go into a big-ass building and only half fill it, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that was definitely the thought process going into that, and I totally understand it. But I don't know. I was confident in our product, and I really wish that we had at least had, a venue 2 or 3 times the size as what we'd run.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. Hindsight's 20/20, and yeah.
So, is there anything else?
I'll put it onward.
Hey, Kenny, okay, is there anything else, you guys?
Well,
okay, go
real
ahead,
quick,
Jimbo.
How close were you to signing with WWE at that Royal Rumble a couple years back?
That was last year, wasn't it? This year?
Yeah, it was literally a year ago. Oh, no, not even a year ago.
This year.
My
This
goodness.
year.
Yeah, not even a year ago. Honestly, not too close at all. I was, and I don't want to sound like I'm too demanding or anything, but it wasn't ever really so much a dollar figure as it was a plan. There are certain guys that I would just love to mix it up with there if I ever did go there, and I would hate to be stuck not knowing how they were going to use me or if they were going to use me.
Yes.
And I guess I just wanted to hear the magic words of, we are going to have you mixed up with this guy and this guy and this guy, et cetera, et cetera. Because at this point, I just want to feel like I have a complete career, and I think that as long as I focus on my body of work, the other things like money and popularity and success or whatever and job security and all that will just come naturally. So, I did not have the opportunity to discuss things like that, so it never came to fruition. It might in the future, who knows? But that's the reason why I'm still with New Japan, and I, given everything that I've been able to do this year, I'm really happy with that decision.
Have you spoken to Johnny Ace since all your success in Japan?
Not at all, actually. No, but I'd love to talk with him, though. Yeah, he was super, super kind and cool to me when we had met in America, and when we'd spoken on the phone. He was the guy that originally hired me. So, to actually, chat with him and kind of catch up with the guy that actually believed in me when I was nothing, I'd like to be able to say hi and say thanks and see how he's doing and all that.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get the opportunity at some point, I'm sure. Kenny, could you please come back on, because there's about 1,000,001 things I still want to talk to you about on here.
For sure, yeah. Just anytime.
Oh, I'm so gutted we ran out of time today. Let me go ahead and give everyone your social media and anything that you have going on that you want to plug.
Sure, yeah. Of course, I am on Twitter a lot. I don't necessarily always post, but I'm always looking at things and keeping up to date with the goings on, and that's at Kenny Omega Man X. So once again, that's at Kenny Omega Man X on Twitter. I and the Young Bucks have the show on YouTube called Being the Elite. So please subscribe to the show. Watch it.
I was on an episode of that.
Hopefully like it. You don't have to pretend you like it. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you like it, show us that you like it. Subscribe to the channel. We love making content. We love making episodes. And, the more subscribers, the better. So, Being the Elite, YoungBucksMerch.com. Tons of elite merchandise there.
Hot Topic.
Pro Wrestling Tees, Kenny Omega, got stuff on there too. So, anytime you guys show support, it really helps. So,
your new exclusive Elite shirt at Hot Topic that just released.
That's right. And if you guys have access to Hot Topics in your area, we have merchandise in all of the Hot Topics. That includes Kenny Omega stuff, Bullet Club stuff, Young Buck stuff, Cody stuff, Marty stuff, and Elite stuff now too. And there may be even more stuff in the future, but that remains to be seen. But we are really excited for the rest of the year and beyond. And it's going to be real cool moving forward.
Nice. Kenny, like, you legitimately are, like, to me, arguably the top in-ring performer in wrestling right now. Mm-hmm. You know, some people might have a different taste of what they like, but in my opinion, you are, and I'm honored that you came on the show today, man, and that you gave us some of your time. And please come back on.
Thank you very much. And yes, I 1,000% will whenever you guys want to have me.
You're an amazing guest, man. Thank you so much, Kenny. Have an awesome day,
all right,
man.
Thanks, guys.
Too sweet.
All right. Hoo-wee. Sweet, right? We're not taking a break after that.
No.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to X-Pac 12360. You can find me at The Real X-Pac on Twitter. Everybody do that thing real quick.
Follow me on Twitter at Jimbo in the Booth.
You guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at _Denise Salcedo.
You can follow me on all social media at Sundown Motel. Check out uprocks.com and check out our With Spandex podcast. Episode 2 just released today, and it's got Sean X-Pac Waltman on it. So
Yes,
give it a
sir.
listen.
You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad.
All right, everybody. See you right here next week. Easy for me to say. On X-Pac 12360.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz ya later!